They say the happiest day of your life can turn into your worst nightmare in the blink of an eye. For Victoria, that day was supposed to be her graduation. She stood there, summa cum laude, ready to conquer the world, only to have her husband, the man she supported for 6 years, hand her a manila envelope instead of a bouquet. Inside weren't congratulations. They were divorce papers. He called her a financial burden. He called her a dead weight. What he didn't know was that the phone buzzing in her pocket wasn't a debt collector. It was the CEO of Nexus Tech, waiting to sign an $800 million acquisition deal for the software she'd built in secret. And Liam? He was about to make the most expensive mistake in history. The sun beat down on the manicured lawns of Stanford University, reflecting off the sea of black caps and gowns. The air smelled of champagne, freshly cut grass, and the heavy perfume of expensive lilies lining the stage. For most, it was a day of unbridled joy. For Victoria Vance, it felt like she was walking a tightrope over a pit of vipers. She adjusted the gold tassel on her cap, her fingers trembling slightly. It wasn't the ceremony that made her nervous. It was Liam. She scanned the crowd of parents and partners searching for his face. Liam Blackwood, her husband of 6 years, the man whose medical school tuition she had paid for by working double shifts at a diner, the man whose ego she had nursed through every failed residency interview until he finally landed his prestigious position at St. Jude's Hospital. She spotted him near the back, standing under the shade of an old oak tree. He wasn't smiling. He was checking his watch, his face set in a mask of impatience that had become all too familiar over the last 6 months. Beside him stood a woman Victoria didn't recognize, a tall, sleek blonde in a red dress that cost more than Victoria's entire tuition. Probably a colleague, Victoria whispered to herself, forcing a smile onto her face. He's just stressed. He's here. That's what matters. Victoria Vance! The dean's voice boomed over the speakers. As she walked across the stage to accept her PhD in computer science, the applause was polite but distant. She didn't come from money. She didn't have a famous last name. She was the scholarship kid, the one who smelled like fryer grease for the first 3 years of her undergrad. She gripped the diploma, her heart swelling. I did it. We made it, Liam. She rushed off the stage, bypassing the photo ops, and made a beeline for her husband. Liam, she called out, waving the diploma. I'm done. It's finally over. Liam didn't move toward her. He didn't open his arms. He simply stood there, hands in the pockets of his tailored navy suit, watching her approach with a look of cold detachment. The blonde woman next to him smirked, taking a sip of iced coffee. Congratulations, Liam said flatly. It sounded less like a celebration and more like a diagnosis. Is everything okay? Victoria's smile faltered. You look upset. I'm not upset, Victoria, Liam said, his voice smooth and terrifyingly calm. I'm just realistic. Look, we need to talk. Now, before you go off to whatever little celebration party your friends are throwing. Celebration? Victoria laughed nervously. Liam, the celebration is with you. I booked that table at Le Bernardin, remember? Tonight is about us starting our real lives. No more tuition, no more late nights studying. Liam let out a short, sharp sigh. He pulled a thick manila envelope from his inside jacket pocket. There is no us anymore, Victoria. The noise of the crowd seemed to drop away, replaced by a high-pitched ringing in her ears. What? I'm leaving you, he said, thrusting the envelope into her hands. These are divorce papers. My lawyer drew them up this morning. I wanted to give them to you now, so you can't say I wasted any more of your time. Victoria stared at the envelope. It felt heavy, like a brick. On my graduation day. Liam, is this a joke? It's not a joke. The blonde woman spoke up, her voice like honey laced with arsenic. She stepped closer to Liam, linking her arm through his. Liam has outgrown this arrangement. He's a top surgeon now. He needs a partner who fits his lifestyle, not a student drowning in debt. Victoria looked from the woman to Liam. Who is she? This is Jessica, Liam said, not an ounce of shame in his eyes. She's the daughter of the chief of surgery, and she's right. Victoria, look at you. You've spent the last 6 years with your nose in a book or flipping burgers. I'm moving up in the world. I need someone who can help me navigate high society, not someone I have to apologize for. I paid for your degree, Victoria whispered, her voice shaking. I worked 3 jobs so you wouldn't have to take out loans. I ate ramen for 4 years so you could have a nice apartment. And I appreciate the charity, Liam sneered. But let's be honest. You were an investment that didn't pay off. You have a PhD in what? Coding? Great. You can go fix computers at a library. I'm saving lives. We are not the same. He checked his Rolex, a gift Victoria had bought him for his graduation, draining her savings account to do it. Sign the papers, Liam commanded. I'm offering you a clean break. No alimony. You keep your student debt, I keep the house and the car since they're in my name. It's generous, considering I've been the one paying the mortgage for the last 6 months. Victoria looked down at the envelope. Then she looked at the blonde woman, Jessica, who was looking at her like she was a stray dog that had wandered into a gala. A vibration buzzed against Victoria's hip, her phone. She ignored it. You think I'm a burden? Victoria asked, her voice quieting. I think you're an anchor, Liam said cruelly, and I'm done dragging you along. Goodbye, Victoria. He turned his back on her. He took Jessica's arm and began to walk away through the crowd of cheering graduates, leaving his wife standing alone in her gown, holding her divorce papers like a diploma in heartbreak. The phone buzzed again, and again. Victoria wiped a single tear from her cheek. She looked at the caller ID. It was Marcus Thorne. Wait, no Thorne. Correction. It was Marcus Sterling, CEO of Aurora Tech. She took a deep breath, her sadness instantly hardening into something cold and sharp. She answered the phone. Hello? Victoria. Marcus's voice was electric with excitement. Where are you? The board is assembled. The investors from Dubai are here. We have the $800 million check ready. We just need your signature to close the acquisition of your AI algorithm. Are you coming? Victoria looked at Liam's retreating back. I'm on my way, Marcus, she said. And prepare the legal team. I have a second document I need to sign today. The boardroom of Aurora Tech was a fortress of glass and steel overlooking the San Francisco skyline. It was a world away from the dusty campus lawn. Men in 3-piece suits that cost more than Liam's car sat around a mahogany table that seemed to stretch for miles. When Victoria walked in, she wasn't wearing a power suit. She was still in her simple white graduation dress, having discarded the gown in a trash can outside. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but her chin was held high. The room fell silent. Marcus Sterling, a man known for eating competitors for breakfast, stood up immediately. He was 50, silver-haired, and radiated power. He walked over to Victoria with a reverence usually reserved for royalty. Gentlemen, Marcus announced, gesturing to the young woman in the simple dress. The architect has arrived. He turned to Victoria. Are you all right? You look... I'm fine, Victoria said, her voice steady. Let's get this done. She sat at the head of the table. A team of lawyers slid a stack of documents toward her. This wasn't just a job offer. This was an acquisition. For the past 3 years, while Liam thought she was studying at the library or wasting time on her laptop, Victoria had been building Sentinel, a predictive AI algorithm capable of diagnosing rare diseases faster than any human doctor. She had built it to help Liam. She had started coding it after seeing him struggle with difficult cases. But when she tried to show him a year ago, he had laughed at her. "Stick to your video games, Vicky. Leave the medicine to the doctors." So she kept it to herself. She refined it. She patented it. And then she pitched it. "The terms are as discussed," Marcus said, sliding a pen across the polished wood. $800 million for full ownership of the Sentinel source code. You retain a 10% royalty on all future applications and a seat on the board of directors. Victoria picked up the pen. Her hand hovered over the paper. $800 million. An hour ago, her husband had called her a financial burden. He had dumped her because he thought she couldn't support his lifestyle. "One condition," Victoria said, looking up. "Name it," Marcus replied instantly. "I want the announcement of this deal to be public. Very public. I want it on the front page of every financial journal, every tech blog, and every news station by tomorrow morning. And I want my maiden name on it. Victoria Vance." Marcus smiled, a shark-like grin of approval. "Consider it done. We have a press conference scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow." Victoria signed the papers. The ink flowed smoothly, sealing her fate as one of the youngest female billionaires in the tech world. "Congratulations, Ms. Vance," Marcus said, shaking her hand. "You just changed the world." "Thank you, Marcus," she said. She reached into her purse and pulled out the crumpled manila envelope Liam had given her. "Now, do you have a notary present? I have one more thing to sign." She slapped the divorce papers onto the mahogany table. "I need to sever a liability before my assets freeze," she said coldly. The lawyers in the room exchanged glances. One of them, a sharp-eyed woman named Rachel, leaned forward. "Divorce papers?" "My husband served me an hour ago," Victoria said, opening the document to the signature page. "He thinks I'm broke. He waived his right to alimony and any future assets because he assumes I have nothing." Rachel picked up the papers and scanned them, her eyebrows shooting up. "He signed a full waiver of asset discovery and spousal support? He explicitly states here that each party shall retain sole ownership of assets acquired henceforth?" "He was in a rush," Victoria said dryly. "He has a dinner reservation." Rachel let out a low whistle. "He just signed away his claim to half of an $800 million fortune. If you sign this now, before the bank transfer hits your account, he gets nothing. Absolutely nothing." "That's the plan," Victoria said. She signed the divorce papers with a flourish, right next to where she had just signed the deal of a lifetime. 3 days later, Liam Blackwood sat in the doctor's lounge at St. Jude's Hospital. He was feeling good. Jessica had moved in the night before, bringing her expensive art and her even more expensive taste in wine. The divorce was processing smoothly. He felt lighter, unburdened by the dead weight of a wife who was just a perpetual student. "Hey, Liam," called out Dr. Aris, a senior surgeon Liam was desperate to impress. "Have you seen the news?" "I don't have time for news, Aris. Too busy saving lives," Liam said with a charming smile, pouring himself coffee. "You might want to make time for this," Aris said, pointing to the large TV mounted on the wall. "It's about that new medical AI. The hospital is thinking of licensing it. It costs a fortune, but it's revolutionary." Liam glanced at the screen. A CNN anchor was speaking excitedly. "The tech world is reeling this morning after the historic acquisition of the Sentinel AI system. The deal, valued at $800 million, was closed late yesterday by Aurora Tech." $800 million, Liam whistled. "Whoever built that is set for life." But the real story is the creator, the anchor continued. A young PhD graduate from Stanford who developed the code in her dorm room and local coffee shops. The mysterious genius has been identified as Dr. Victoria Vance. Liam dropped his coffee cup. It shattered on the tile floor, splashing hot brown liquid over his pristine white shoes. The screen changed to a clip from the press conference. There she was, Victoria. She looked different. Gone was the frizzy hair and the oversized hoodie. She was wearing a tailored white suit, her hair sleek and straight, standing next to Marcus Sterling. She looked powerful. She looked unreachable. "Dr. Vance," a reporter asked in the clip, "what do you plan to do with your newfound wealth?" Victoria looked directly into the camera. Her eyes were cold steel. "I plan to invest in myself," she said. "For a long time, I was told I was a bad investment. I was told I was a burden. I'm happy to prove that patience pays off, and I'm happy to be starting this new chapter completely independent." The room in the hospital lounge went dead silent. Every doctor, nurse, and intern turned to look at Liam. Everyone knew he had just divorced his wife. Everyone knew he had been bragging about upgrading to the chief's daughter. Dr. Orris looked at Liam, his expression shifting from respect to something resembling pity mixed with amusement. "Liam, isn't Vance your wife's maiden name?" Liam couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. He patted his pocket for his phone. He needed to call her. He needed to tell her it was a mistake, that he was stressed, that the divorce papers were just a cry for help. He dialed her number with trembling fingers. "We're sorry," the automated voice said. "The number you have dialed has been disconnected." "Damn it," Liam hissed. "Trouble in paradise?" Dr. Orris asked dryly. She can't do this," Liam stammered, his face pale. "We're married. California is a community property state. I'm entitled to half of that." "Didn't you tell everyone yesterday that you made her sign papers waiving everything?" a nurse asked from the corner, scrolling through her phone. "Yeah, you were laughing about how she had student debt, and you didn't want to be liable for it." Liam felt bile rise in his throat. He ran out of the lounge, ignoring the calls of his colleagues. He had to get to a lawyer. He had to fix this. He had just thrown away $400 million. Victoria sat in her new office. It wasn't really an office. It was the entire top floor of the Aurora building. The glass walls offered a panoramic view of the city she now effectively owned a piece of. Her assistant, a sharp young man named David, buzzed in. "Miss Vance? There is a man in the lobby screaming that he's your husband. Security is holding him back, but he's threatening to sue the company." Victoria swiveled in her chair, a small, dark smile playing on her lips. "Let him up." "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. I want to see this." 5 minutes later, the elevator doors pinged open. Liam stormed out, his face red, his hair disheveled. He was followed closely by 2 large security guards. When he saw Victoria, he stopped. She was sitting behind a desk made of black marble. She didn't stand up. She didn't smile. She simply watched him. "Victoria!" Liam shouted, marching toward her. "What the hell is this? 800 million? You hid this from me." "I didn't hide anything, Liam," Victoria said calmly. "You never asked. For 3 years, every time I tried to talk about my work, you told me to be quiet because you were watching TV. You told me my coding was a cute hobby. It's fraud." Liam slammed his hand on the desk. "You signed those divorce papers knowing you were about to be rich. That's entrapment." "Actually," Victoria said, sliding a folder across the desk, "I signed the deal before I signed the divorce papers. Technically, the money was mine while we were still married." Liam's eyes lit up. "Exactly. Community property. I get half." "But," Victoria continued, her voice dropping an octave. You signed a waiver, a specific, notarized waiver drawn up by your lawyer, stating that you wanted no claim to any assets held by me, known or unknown, in exchange for me not claiming any of your assets. You were so terrified I'd take your Honda Civic that you signed away $1 billion fortune. I can challenge that, Liam stammered. I was under duress. You were under the influence of your ego, Victoria corrected, and Jessica. At the mention of her name, Liam flinched. Speaking of Jessica, Victoria said, leaning back, I heard St. Jude's is looking to upgrade their diagnostic systems. They're my first client. I just got off the phone with the chief of surgery, Jessica's father. Liam went cold. You talked to Dr. Calloway? I did. He's a charming man. He was very interested to hear that the man dating his daughter is currently being sued for malpractice. What? Liam gasped. I'm not being sued. Not yet, Victoria said. But you see, my algorithm doesn't just diagnose future diseases. It analyzes past medical records to find errors. And when we ran St. Jude's data through the system, well, let's just say Dr. Liam Blackwood has a 14% higher error rate than the hospital average. Missed diagnoses. Sloppy prescriptions. Liam gripped the edge of the desk. You're ruining me. I'm just presenting the data, Victoria said. Dr. Calloway was very grateful. He hates liability. He mentioned something about cleaning house before the merger with Aurora Tech goes through. You bought the hospital? Liam whispered, horror dawning on him. I bought the board, Victoria corrected. And I don't think they want a surgeon who discards things the moment he thinks they have no value. It shows poor character. Liam fell to his knees. The arrogance was gone. The doctor who thought he was a god was now just a man, in a rumpled suit, kneeling on a plush carpet. Vicky, please, he begged, tears welling in his eyes. I'm sorry. I was an idiot. It was Jessica. She got in my head. I still love you. We can fix this. Please don't take my job. Don't take my life. Victoria stood up. She walked around the desk and stood over him. She looked down at the man she had loved for 6 years, the man she had sacrificed everything for. She felt nothing. No hate. No love. Just indifference. You didn't just divorce me, Liam, she said softly. You tried to erase me. You wanted me to leave with nothing so you could feel big. Now you know how it feels to be small. She pressed the intercom button on her desk. David, escort Mr. Blackwood out, and inform the front desk that if he returns, they are to call the police. Victoria! Liam screamed as the guards grabbed his arms. You can't do this. I made you. No, Liam, she said, turning her back on him to look out at the city. You didn't make me. You just held me back. The weeks following the confrontation in Victoria's office were a blur of flashbulbs and ink. Victoria Vance wasn't just a wealthy woman. She had become a symbol. The media dubbed her the Iron Cinderella, the genius who scrubbed floors to pay for a husband who discarded her, only to buy the castle he lived in. While Victoria was gracing the cover of Forbes and Vogue, Liam Blackwood's life was unraveling with terrifying speed. The suspension from St. Jude's had been immediate. Dr. Calloway, Jessica's father, had tried to frame it as a temporary administrative leave to protect his own reputation. But the hospital grapevine was ruthless. Everyone knew Liam was under investigation because of the data Victoria's Sentinel system had flagged. But Liam wasn't ready to give up. He still had Jessica. Or so he thought. You need to stop pacing, Liam. You're wearing a hole in my Persian rug, Jessica snapped, looking up from her phone. They were in her penthouse apartment. It was the only place Liam could stay. The bank had foreclosed on his house faster than expected, once his salary was frozen. "They can't fire me, Jess," Liam said, his voice ragged. "I'm a Blackwood. I'm the best surgeon they have. Your dad knows that. You need to talk to him. Tell him to reinstate me." Jessica sipped her kale smoothie, her eyes cold. "My father is trying to save his own skin. That algorithm of your ex-wife's didn't just catch your mistakes, Liam. It flagged systemic negligence in the entire surgical wing. The board is talking about a complete audit. You're toxic right now." "I'm toxic," Liam laughed bitterly. "I did this for us. I left her for you. And what a prize you turned out to be," Jessica muttered. She stood up, smoothing her dress. "I'm going to the Obsidian Gala tonight. You should stay here. Order a pizza. Try not to look so desperate." "The Obsidian Gala?" Liam's head snapped up. "That's the biggest networking event of the year. Everyone will be there. The board, the investors, Victoria." "Exactly," Jessica said. "Which is why you're not coming." "I have to go," Liam said, a desperate plan forming in his mind. "If I can just talk to Victoria, in public. If I can show her I'm humble, maybe she'll call off the dogs. She still loves me, Jess. I know she does. She's just hurt." Jessica looked at him with pity. "You really are delusional. But fine. Come. Just don't embarrass me." The Obsidian Gala was held at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. It was an ocean of tuxedos, silk gowns, and jewels that sparkled under the avant-garde chandeliers. When Liam walked in, he felt the shift immediately. Before, he would have been greeted with handshakes and backslaps. Now, eyes averted. People whispered behind champagne flutes. He was the man who threw away $1 billion. He was the punchline of the tech world. Then, the room went silent. Victoria had arrived. She descended the grand staircase, wearing a gown of midnight blue velvet that seemed to absorb the light, hugging her silhouette before flaring out at the floor. She wore no jewelry, except for a simple pair of diamond studs, likely worth more than Liam's life insurance policy. On her arm wasn't a date, but Marcus Sterling. They looked like a power couple, heads bent together in conversation, laughing at a private joke. Liam felt a surge of jealousy so potent it nearly brought him to his knees. He downed a glass of scotch and began to push through the crowd. "Liam, don't," Jessica hissed, grabbing his arm. He shook her off. "I need to fix this." He intercepted Victoria near the ice sculpture. "Victoria," he said, his voice loud enough to turn heads. Victoria stopped. She looked at him, not with anger, but with the mild annoyance one might feel for a fly at a picnic. "Hello, Liam. I see you're still around." "We need to talk," Liam said, putting on his best sensitive doctor face. "Please, just 5 minutes, away from the cameras." "I have nothing to say to you," Victoria replied, turning back to Marcus. "Shall we get a drink, Marcus?" "Wait!" Liam stepped in front of her, blocking her path. The crowd gasped. Security guards tensed on the perimeter. "Vicky, look at me. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But this? Ruining my career? Humiliating me? This isn't you. You're the woman who cried when a stray cat died. You have a good heart. Don't let money turn you into a monster." Victoria stared at him. The silence in the hall was deafening. "You're right, Liam," she said softly. "I do have a good heart. That's why I supported you for 6 years. That's why I worked myself to the bone so you could play doctor." She took a step closer, her heels clicking on the marble. "But you didn't fall in love with my heart. You fell in love with my utility. And the moment you thought I was useless, you threw me away on the most important day of my life. You're not asking for forgiveness because you're sorry. You're asking because you're broke." "I love you," Liam shouted, the lie sounding desperate even to his own ears. "No!" A sharp voice cut in. It wasn't Victoria, it was Jessica. She stepped forward, sensing the shifting tides. She saw the disgust on the faces of the hospital board members watching. She knew that if she stayed attached to Liam, she would sink with him. "He doesn't love you," Jessica announced, looking at Victoria with a predatory smile. "He doesn't love anyone. He spent our entire relationship complaining about how boring you were, Victoria. He called you his charity case. He told me he only married you because he needed a maid who paid rent." Liam spun around, his face draining of color. "Jessica, what are you doing?" "I'm cutting the dead weight," Jessica said, echoing Liam's own words from graduation day. She turned to the crowd. "I want everyone to know that I had no idea about Liam's professional negligence. I was deceived, just like the hospital. As of this moment, our engagement is off." She pulled the diamond ring off her finger, a ring Liam had bought on credit, and dropped it into his glass of scotch. It sank with a heavy clink. Liam stood frozen, destroyed. His wife had outgrown him. His mistress had betrayed him. The room watched him with collective schadenfreude. Victoria didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply looked at Jessica. "Be careful, Jessica," Victoria said, her voice cool. "If you think throwing him to the wolves will save you from the Sentinel audit, you're mistaken. The data shows you signed off on 30% of his faulty charts." Jessica's smug smile vanished. "Enjoy the party," Victoria said. She took Marcus's arm and walked away, leaving Liam and Jessica standing in the wreckage of their own egos. If the gala was the social execution of Liam Blackwood, the weeks that followed were the funeral. But a cornered rat doesn't just die. It bites. Liam was living in a motel on the outskirts of the city. His credit cards were maxed out. His friends had blocked his number. He spent his days drinking cheap vodka and watching reruns of news segments praising Victoria Vance. Hatred began to curdle inside him. It wasn't his fault. It was hers. She had planned this. She had entrapped him. He found a lawyer on a billboard near the highway. "Saul the Bulldog Gorman. We bite back." Gorman's office smelled of stale cigar smoke and desperation. He listened to Liam's story, his beady eyes narrowing. "Let me get this straight," Gorman rasped. "She signed an $800 million deal. Then she signed the divorce papers. The timestamp is key. If she signed the deal before the divorce was finalized, technically, those assets were marital property for about 12 minutes. "She said I signed a waiver," Liam said, rubbing his temples. "Waivers can be contested," Gorman said, leaning forward. "We argue you were under duress. We argue that she failed to disclose a material change in financial status. That is fraud, Mr. Blackwood. In the eyes of the law, she had a fiduciary duty to tell you she was about to become a billionaire before you signed away your rights. Can we win?" "We don't need to win," Gorman grinned, showing yellow teeth. "We just need to make it ugly enough that she pays you to go away. We sue for half, 400 million, plus damages for emotional distress and defamation regarding your medical license." The lawsuit was filed 3 days later. It hit the news cycle like a bomb. Ex-husband sues tech mogul for $400 million claims fraud and entrapment. Public opinion, which had been firmly on Victoria's side, began to wobble. People loved a rags-to-riches story, but they loved a scandal even more. Was it possible she had tricked him? Was she as calculating as she seemed? Victoria was in a board meeting when the subpoena arrived. Marcus Sterling looked at the paperwork, his jaw tight. "This is garbage, Victoria, but it's dangerous garbage. A lawsuit like this ties up your assets. It could freeze the St. Jude's integration. Investors hate uncertainty." "He wants a settlement," Victoria said, staring out the window. "He wants me to write him a check for 50 million just to shut him up." "It might be the fastest way," Marcus advised gently. "It's pocket change to you now." "No." Victoria turned around. Her eyes were blazing. "I paid for his life with my sweat and tears for 6 years. I will not pay him 1 cent of my success. He wants a court battle. I'll give him a war." The deposition was scheduled for a rainy Tuesday in November. The conference room was packed. Liam sat next to Gorman, wearing a cheap suit that fit poorly. He looked haggard, but there was a glint of triumph in his eyes. He thought he had her. Victoria sat opposite him, flanked by a team of 5 high-priced corporate attorneys. But she did the talking. "Mr. Blackwood," Victoria's lead lawyer began, "you claim you were unaware of the Sentinel project?" "I knew she messed around on computers," Liam lied smoothly. "But she never told me it was valuable. She hid it. She kept me in the dark so she could steal our future." "And the waiver?" "I signed it because I trusted her," Liam said, squeezing out a fake tear. "I just wanted the divorce to be amicable. I didn't know I was signing away my rights to a fortune she had already secured." Gorman smirked. It was going well. They were painting Victoria as the cold, manipulative genius, and Liam as the trusting, heartbroken husband. Then Victoria leaned forward. She placed a single tablet on the table. "May I?" she asked the mediator. She tapped the screen. A video began to play. It was grainy footage, taken from a home security camera in their old living room. The timestamp was 2 years ago. In the video, Victoria was sitting at the kitchen table, her laptop open. She looked exhausted. Liam walked in, throwing his bag on the floor. "Liam, look at this," Video Victoria said excitedly. "I finally cracked the predictive code. I think this could be worth millions. I want to pitch it to Aurora Tech." Video Liam laughed. He walked over, glanced at the screen, and slammed the laptop shut. "Stop dreaming, Vicky. It's a toy. Nobody is going to pay millions for your little hobby. You need to focus on paying the electric bill. Pick up extra shifts at the diner. I have exams coming up." "But Liam, it's real. If I said drop it," Video Liam shouted. "You're delusional. You're never going to be anything more than a waitress who got lucky marrying a doctor. Stop wasting my time with this garbage." The video ended. The conference room was silent. Victoria looked at Liam. "You weren't unaware, Liam. You were unsupportive. You knew exactly what I was working on. You just didn't believe in me. And you explicitly told me to drop it. That is legal abandonment of the asset." She swiped to the next file. "And regarding your claim of fraud, here is an email from your work account, sent to Jessica Calloway 3 days before graduation." She read it aloud. "Don't worry, babe. I'm getting the papers drawn up. I'm making her sign a full waiver. I don't want her coming after my future attending salary. I'm going to make sure she leaves with absolutely nothing." Victoria looked at Gorman, whose smirk had vanished. "You wanted me to leave with nothing," Victoria said. "You got exactly what you asked for. This email proves premeditated intent to defraud me of your future assets. You were the one trying to hide money, Liam. I just beat you at your own game." Gorman closed his briefcase. He looked at Liam with disgust. "You didn't tell me about the email." I forgot," Liam stammered. "This deposition is over," Gorman said, standing up. "I'm dropping you as a client. Good luck paying my bill." Liam sat alone at the table. The legal team, the mediator, even the stenographer looked at him with disdain. Victoria stood up, smoothing her skirt. She walked to the door, then paused. "Oh, and Liam?" "One more thing." He looked up, his eyes hollow. "I bought the debt on your parents' house. They were behind on payments. I could have foreclosed, but I didn't." Because unlike you, I don't punish people who supported me. I paid it off. They're safe, but they know exactly what you did." She walked out, leaving him in the silence of his total defeat. 2 years later, the skyline of San Francisco had changed. It wasn't just the geography of the city that had shifted, but the hierarchy of power within it. Standing tall against the fog was the newly inaugurated Vance Sterling Medical Research Institute, a gleaming tower of glass and sustainable steel that overshadowed the older, greyer St. Jude's Hospital next door. For Victoria Vance, the view from the penthouse suite of the tower was breathtaking, but she rarely spent time looking back. She was too busy looking forward. She stood before a floor-to-ceiling mirror in her private suite, smoothing the fabric of her silver gala gown. It was a far cry from the simple white dress she had worn to her graduation, the day her life had shattered and then reassembled itself into something diamond-hard. "You look invincible," a voice came from the doorway. Marcus Sterling leaned against the frame, holding 2 glasses of sparkling water. His hair was a little greyer, his smile a little softer than it had been in the boardroom 2 years ago. They weren't just partners in business anymore. They were partners in life. It had been a slow burn, a relationship built on mutual respect and intellectual rivalry, completely devoid of the transactional nature of her marriage to Liam. "I don't want to look invincible," Victoria replied, taking the glass. "I want to look like I belong here. Sometimes I still feel like the girl counting quarters for laundry." "That girl is the reason you do belong here," Marcus said, kissing her forehead. "Ready? The world is waiting. The governor is here. The press is here. And I believe your parents just arrived in the VIP suite." "Let's go," she breathed. 5 miles away, in a cramped studio apartment that smelled faintly of mildew and boiled cabbage, Liam Blackwood was struggling to tie his tie. It was the same tie he had worn on Victoria's graduation day, but it was frayed now, the silk worn thin. He checked his reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror. He looked older. The stress of the last 2 years had carved deep lines around his mouth and eyes. He wasn't Dr. Blackwood anymore. He was just Liam, a pharmaceutical sales representative for a third-rate company that sold generic painkillers to discount clinics. His medical license had been suspended for 18 months following the investigation triggered by the Sentinel data. He had eventually gotten it back, but no reputable hospital would touch him. He was a liability, a walking lawsuit. Tonight, however, he had a mission. He picked up the invitation on his counter. It wasn't addressed to him. It was addressed to Dr. Aris, his former colleague, who had pity-invited him as a +1 before cancelling last minute due to the flu. Liam hadn't told the organizers Aris wasn't coming. He needed to get into that gala. He told himself it was for closure. He told himself he just wanted to see her one last time, to show her he wasn't a monster. But deep down, a dark, desperate part of him hoped for a miracle. Maybe she missed him. Maybe she was tired of the cold, corporate world. Maybe, just maybe, she would see him and remember the good years. He grabbed his keys, not to a luxury sedan, but to a dented compact car he had bought off Craigslist, and headed out into the rain. The gala was a sensory overload. The lobby of the Vance Sterling Institute was transformed into a wonderland of white orchids and holographic displays showcasing the Sentinel AI's achievements. Liam handed his stolen invitation to the hostess. She scanned it, frowned slightly at the name, Dr. Aris, but looked at Liam's tuxedo and waved him through. He walked into the ballroom and felt the air leave his lungs. It was wealth on a scale he had never comprehended. He saw senators, tech moguls and celebrities, and everywhere, on every screen, was Victoria's face. He grabbed a drink from a passing waiter, his hands shaking. "Impressive, isn't it?" Liam froze. The voice was familiar, but it lacked its old venom. He turned to see Jessica Calloway. She looked different, too. The arrogant shine was gone. She was wearing a dress that was clearly a season old, and she was standing alone near the buffet, looking tired. "Jessica." Liam nodded warily. "I didn't think you'd be here." "My father forced me to come." She sipped her wine, her eyes scanning the room bitterly. "He's trying to secure a partnership with Victoria. He thinks if I'm here, it shows goodwill. I think it just shows we're desperate." How is life?" Liam asked awkwardly. "Terrible," she laughed humorlessly. "After the scandal, the country club crowd dropped me. Daddy's reputation took a hit because of you, Liam. He blames me. I'm currently managing a dental office in Oakland." "Me? A dental office?" She looked at him with a mixture of hatred and camaraderie. Two fallen stars, burning out in the atmosphere of Victoria's ascent. "She's over there." Jessica nodded toward the center of the room. The crowd parted. Victoria was laughing at something the governor said. She radiated light. She looked happy. Not just rich, but genuinely, deeply happy. Liam felt a physical ache in his chest. It wasn't love. It was the agonizing realization of loss. He had held a diamond in his hand and thrown it away because he wanted a shiny piece of glass. "I'm going to talk to her," Liam said, setting his glass down. "Don't do it," Jessica warned. "It's pathetic." "I have to." Liam pushed through the crowd. His heart hammered against his ribs. He rehearsed his speech. "Victoria, I'm sorry. I've changed. I'm a better man now." As he got closer, security guards tensed, recognizing him from the "Do Not Admit" list that had been circulated years ago. But Victoria saw him. She held up a hand, signaling the guards to stand down. She turned to face him. Marcus stood beside her, his hand resting protectively on the small of her back. "Liam," Victoria said. Her voice wasn't cold anymore. It was just distant, like she was greeting a stranger she had met once at a bus stop. "Victoria," Liam choked out. "You look incredible." "Thank you," she said politely. "I assume you're here with Dr. Aris?" Yes." He couldn't make it. Liam took a step closer. "Vicky, I just wanted to say, I've been following your work. It's amazing. I'm proud of you." "Thank you," she repeated. There was no emotion in her eyes, no anger to fuel him, no love to save him, just a blank wall. "I'm working at a clinic now," Liam rambled, desperation creeping into his voice. "It's humble work, but it's honest. I've learned a lot about what matters. I thought maybe we could get coffee sometime, just to catch up." The silence that followed was excruciating. Marcus looked away, embarrassed for him. "Liam," Victoria said softly. "Why would we do that?" "Because we were married. We have a history. We have a past," she corrected. "Not a history. History is something you learn from. You're just something I survived." "I made a mistake." Liam's voice rose, drawing stares. "I was an idiot, but I'm paying for it every single day. Look at me. I have nothing. Doesn't that make you happy? Haven't you had enough revenge?" Victoria tilted her head. "You think this is revenge?" She gestured to the room. "The Institute. Her life." "Liam, I don't think about you enough to want revenge. My life isn't a reaction to yours. My life is simply mine. You're not the villain in my story anymore. You're just a footnote in the first chapter. It was the ultimate dismissal. Hate would have meant he still mattered. Indifference was a death sentence." Suddenly, a commotion erupted near the stage. "Help! Someone help!" a woman screamed. A heavy-set man in a tuxedo, Senator Holloway had clutched his chest and collapsed onto the marble floor. The crowd gasped and surged back. "He's having a heart attack," someone yelled. Liam's instincts kicked in. This was his chance. This was his moment to prove he was still a doctor, still valuable. He pushed past Victoria and sprinted toward the fallen man. "Let me through! I'm a doctor!" Liam shouted, dropping to his knees beside the senator. He checked for a pulse. It was erratic. The senator was gasping, his face turning purple. "It's a myocardial infarction," Liam announced, loosening the man's tie. "I need a defibrillator. Call 911. He began chest compressions, sweating profusely. "Come on, stay with me." "Stop." A calm, synthetic voice cut through the panic. A drone, sleek and white, hovered down from the ceiling. It was one of the Sentinel prototypes. At the same time, a robotic gurney rolled autonomously through the crowd, guided by the building's AI. "Step away from the patient," the drone instructed. "I'm a doctor," Liam yelled, continuing compressions. "He's in cardiac arrest." "Incorrect." The drone's voice was smooth but authoritative. "Scan complete. Patient is suffering from an acute allergic reaction, resulting in anaphylactic shock disguised as cardiac distress. Chest compressions will exacerbate the condition and cause rib fractures. Administering epinephrine immediately." Liam froze. "What? No, look at the color. It's a heart attack." Victoria stepped forward. "Liam, get back. Vicky, your toy is wrong. I've seen this 100 times." "Sentinel," Victoria commanded clearly. "Override manual interference. Treat the patient." The robotic arm of the gurney extended, gently but firmly pushing Liam aside. A small needle extended and injected the senator's thigh. Within 10 seconds, the senator gasped, taking a huge, ragged breath. The purple hue began to fade from his face. His eyes fluttered open. He's stabilizing," a nurse from the crowd whispered, checking the vitals on the gurney's display. "Airways are opening. Heart rate normalizing." Liam sat back on his heels, his hands trembling. He had been wrong. He had been about to treat a heart attack while the man died of an allergy. He looked up at the drone, then at Victoria. She looked down at him, with a sadness that crushed him more than her anger ever could. "The algorithm doesn't make assumptions based on panic, Liam," she said quietly. "It listens to the data. You never learned how to listen." The paramedics arrived, taking over the scene, praising the AI's quick intervention. The senator was wheeled out, alive, amidst thunderous applause for Victoria and her creation. Liam remained on the floor. He was surrounded by hundreds of people, yet he was completely alone. He was a relic, an analog man in a digital world he had been too arrogant to understand. Marcus walked over and offered a hand to help him up. It was a gesture of supreme mercy. "You should go, Liam," Marcus said quietly, "before the press realizes who you are." Liam stood up. He smoothed his frayed suit. He looked at Victoria one last time. She wasn't looking at him. She was holding the senator's wife's hand, comforting her. He turned and walked toward the exit. As he reached the glass doors, he saw his reflection. He saw a man who had everything and threw it away because he wanted a trophy. He walked out into the rain, the heavy glass doors sliding shut behind him, sealing him out of the warmth, the light, and the future. Inside, Victoria watched him leave. "Are you okay?" Marcus asked, wrapping his arm around her. Victoria looked at the empty doorway, then up at the man who stood by her side, not because she was useful, but because she was her. "I am," she smiled, and this time it reached her eyes completely. "I'm finally free." She turned back to the room, to her parents who were waving at her, to the technology that was saving lives, and to the future she had built with her own 2 hands. "Now," Victoria said, raising her glass. Let's go change the world. Victoria's story is a brutal reminder that the people we underestimate today may be the titans we beg for help tomorrow. Liam Blackwood thought he was discarding a burden, but he was actually throwing away a diamond to chase a mirage. In the end, his arrogance cost him not just a fortune, but his dignity, his career, and his humanity. It's a lesson in the power of resilience. Victoria didn't let rejection define her. She used it as fuel. She proved that true worth isn't about who you married or what school you went to. It's about what you build when the world turns its back on you. If you enjoyed this story of justice, heartbreak, and sweet revenge, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel. Don't forget to share this video with someone who needs a little motivation, and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next real-life drama. Thanks for watching.